Avon Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the OTCQB, symbol ABNAF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Avon's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at avonresources.com.
You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Sean Brodrick, senior editor at WeissRatings.com and Marijuana Millionaire Portfolio. Welcome back to the shows.
Thanks for having me on.
Sean, gold is making moves right now. Is that because people are nervous about the markets?
People are nervous about many things, but yeah, I think people are generally nervous, and so that's pushed up gold. And there are talks of more rate cuts, 2 or 3 this year, and so that tends to lower the attractiveness of bonds compared to hard assets like gold, so that's helping as well.
Any particular interest in certain segments of gold?
Well, I've put people into a silver company most recently, simply because silver is leveraged to gold, and and silver has a lot of catching up to do. Right now, I mean, the gold silver ratio is about 90, which is insane. That's way too high. So I expect silver to catch up. Those miners that are leveraged to silver should catch up even more. And so that's kind of the way that I'm playing it. Those are the things that I'm looking at. There aren't a lot of silver players, but there are some. And so I think people should keep their eyes on that. And other than that, of course, if we do have a breakout, and I sent a chart to my subscribers on Friday, to my Wealth Supercycle subscribers, and I republished it to Twitter this week. And it shows the overhead resistance gold has at 1350, which has kept gold in check for 5 long years. What we need is a weekly close, a convincing weekly close above that level. So I would watch the end of the week action. Don't worry about the Fed. Don't worry about things like that. Watch the end of the week action on that. If gold can close above 1350 in a convincing fashion, that is to say it'll have good volume, then I think that it's really time to get back into gold again. I've already put people into positions, but I run more speculative services. I'm speaking to more conservative investors. They really want to keep an eye on that because there really could be some great potential there.
Silver not only is a precious metal, of course, it's also an industrial metal that's used extensively in the solar panel business. And I hear the cost of solar keeps coming down. Is it going to become a point where it's actually a real producer of power at a reasonable price?
Well, it is it already is. People forget that we give more subsidies to fossil fuel industries than we do to solar power. The cost of Chinese solar panels is down 30% in the last year. That's making a lot of things look much more attractive. And so even though we'll see the tariffs going up, if the price of solar panels keeps falling, that will kind of negate the effect of the tariffs. So, yeah, I think there's a lot of potential there.
Also, with silver, is it heavily manipulated? Everybody says J.P. Morgan actually controls the price of silver.
Yeah, well, that's tinfoil hat territory. I'm not saying those guys are necessarily wrong. I'm just saying that we'll never be able to prove it. So, you can talk about things that you might think are true, but I don't really worry about that. I am watching things like what's going on in the solar space. For example, the U.S. installed more solar panels in the first quarter than it did in any first quarter in history. It's just going up and up and up. And that means that the installations for this year in the U.S. are being jacked up higher. They're looking for something like 25% growth. It used to be 14%. So when you look at that, I mean, that's just going to be tremendously bullish for silver demand, because the U.S. is actually fighting the alternative energy revolution now, at least under the current administration. Other parts of the world are using a heck of a lot more. So we'll see even more solar used in places like China and Europe and Africa and stuff like that, which means more demand for silver. So I think that's important. I think the fact that there aren't any new silver mines being built, that's important. I think there's a lot of things going on. But what it'll come down to the margins. What's enough to happen to get, those people who actually buy silver in ETFs, to get them to act. When you see that happen, I should say if you see that happen, but it's probably when, then you'll see the price of silver go much higher in a hurry. And I'm already loaded for that, but I'll load up more, because when that happens, it could be quite an exciting time.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after this.
I'm Douglas Mason, CEO of Naturally Splendid, symbol NSP on the TSX Venture Exchange. Naturally Splendid is a biotechnology and consumer products company focused on the global cannabis and health markets. Naturally Splendid is expanding distribution in this rapidly growing market, with products currently in Canada, the USA, South Korea, Germany, and Australia. To view our comprehensive company presentation and for more information, please visit our website at naturallysplendid.com.
Grand Portage Resources' Herbert Gold Project in southeast Alaska highlights increased gold resource, indicated and inferred, of 860,000 ounces, in excess of 10 grams per ton gold. Expansion drilling is planned on the Herbert Gold property for the summer of 2019. Grand Portage Resources trading symbols are GPG on the TSX Venture, GPTRF on the OTCQB, and GPB on Frankfurt. For more information, please visit our website, grandportage.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. Sean, Acreage shareholders have voted for a canopy takeover. Mergers and acquisitions still very active in the marijuana space?
Yeah, not as much as they were, though I think they should be more. I think any Canadian company would be smart to get a merger going on in the U.S. with prices the way that they've been beaten down recently. I mean, it's a bargain basement opportunity. And so those Canadian companies that are flush with cash should be buying more than they are. We'll just have to see how that works out. I think that there are some tremendous opportunities coming in the marijuana space this year. I'm happy to be participating in that. I look at the pullback we've seen in marijuana stocks recently as a buying opportunity, because the big long-term trends are very, very positive. Now, that said, you have to also look at what segments of the industry are you looking at. We can't forget that marijuana is a weed, and those companies that are staking their fortunes on growing lots of it will be outproduced and undercut in price by companies that can grow it even cheaper. So keep that in mind, but that still does not mean that there's not opportunities there. There's plenty of opportunities, and I think people should be putting money to work in the space right now.
And on the scientific side, genetic engineering can make beer yeast yield THC. Does that change everything?
Well,
or
it will down the road. I mean, they can already do that, by the way. It's not like, can the scientists do it? The scientists can do it. Can they do it in a way that's economical enough that they can just have a giant factory that turns out THC that way? And will people want to consume it that way? I think people will. I mean, there used to be, back in the old days, when you wanted aspirin, you had to go get bark off of a willow tree. Very few people do that. And they'd much rather buy aspirin made in a factory. The same thing can happen to THC. I think on the medical side, that'll be very important, because not only can they produce tremendous quantities cheaply, they can control the quality very, very well. And so if you need a certain dosage and stuff like that, that's really all going to change that. There are companies working on that right now. There used to be very few that were working on it. Now there's a bunch. But there's still plenty of opportunity there. That doesn't mean that growing is going to go away. I mean, you can make nicotine in a factory and they still grow tobacco. But it is going to be a game changer, and that's one of the big megatrends that I tell my subscribers to watch out for.
We'll have more with Sean Brodrick right after the break.
Hi, I'm Douglas Mason, President and CEO of Magnum Gold Corp, MGI and the TSX Venture Exchange. A 2015 drill program on the LH property intersected several high-grade gold intersections, including 11 meters of 20.66 grams per ton gold. Additional drill targets on the LH property have been identified by a 2018 drone airborne magnetic survey to further evaluate a pyrrhotite-enriched gold-bearing system. Please visit our website at magnumgoldcorp.com.
Don't miss out. Stay informed. Receive the HowStreet.com weekly recap with thought-provoking podcasts, radio, and articles delivered to your inbox. Sign up for the HowStreet.com weekly recap on our homepage at HowStreet.com.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Sean Brodrick. What's the outlook for the U.S. dollar? People still fleeing to the dollar from everything else?
Well, they were, though the dollar's been showing weakness recently. Again, hints that the Fed could be cutting rates 2 to 3 times this year, or I should say within the next year, so that'd be the next 12 months. That's weighing on the dollar now, along with the fact of the trade war. I mean, it's hurt other currencies certainly, but it isn't helping ours. So, you put those two things together and the dollar could run into some headwinds. That said, and I think you mentioned this, it looks good as a place of safety against other currencies around the world. So we're still going to see more money come in that way. So it's kind of I want to say cross currents in the U.S. dollar. I don't think that it'll ramp up quite as much as it did, say, going into May. We had that tremendous ramp up from January into May. Then we saw a big fall off. Now some people are saying, well, that's the correction the dollar needed. It'll go higher from here. Maybe. Or else maybe what we put in is a serious double top. And so that might pin the dollar down for a bit right here, which could give things like gold a chance to grow. Now, one more thing people should be aware of about cutting rates is that one thing that's going to look very good as that happens is stocks that pay nice dividends, right? Because the less return you can get in a bond, the more you want to look for alternate investments that can give you nice payouts. Dividend-paying stocks are going to shine in a rate-cutting environment. So that's something else people should keep in mind. They may have some stocks on their radar. They don't know whether to act because they've already run up. If Chairman Powell is going to cut rates 3 times in the next year, as some have said he will, that is a great time to be in those stocks that pay dividends.
Do we have any idea who really is attacking oil tankers in the Middle East and why they would do that?
I don't think we do. I mean, certainly the Pentagon thinks it knows, but they also thought Iraq had weapons of mass destruction, didn't they? So they think they know. I believe the British have their view on what they believe. The Japanese, who had the tanker that was most recently attacked, have their views on what they think. Then shortly after that tanker attack, we saw some kind of missile flying around down in Saudi Arabia. So it's obviously a very volatile environment. But the thing that's confounding some people is that we have this stuff going on, in the Strait of Hormuz and stuff like that, and the price of oil is really not moving. The price of oil, which had a tremendous correction from about I think late April all the way through June, finally hit a bottom, and it's kind of moving along, doing some kind of bottoming thing right now. Some people might say it's only a flag and it'll go lower from here. But one reason why the price of oil is not reacting more bullishly is we are seeing spare capacity increase and we're seeing oil production increase around the world at the same time. And when that happens, the pressure on oil is generally downward. Now, that can change in a hurry. I mean, you know, Nigeria is always on the brink of civil war. Libya it's like just a bubbling cesspit of things that can go horribly, horribly wrong. Or else missiles could start flying around the Straits of Hormuz. We don't know. But for now, anyway, we are looking at increasing supply, increasing spare capacity, and that's weighing on oil. That said, I just talked about how stocks that are paying nice dividends, that are growing their dividends, do well in an interest rate cutting environment. One other thing that normally does well when interest rates are cut is the price of oil. So you put those two things together, this might be a good time for people to actually look at oil stocks that pay nice dividends, that are growing those dividends. Because, I mean, if past is prologue, then, you know, this could be a great time for them coming up in the next 6 months or so.
Apple is asking suppliers to evaluate moving out of China. Is that a polite way of saying get out of China?
Well, I mean, the trade war just takes all their financial projections, which they have to make as a company, and throws them for a loop. But why can't companies make things in Vietnam, or in Thailand, or in Malaysia, or in the Philippines? Of course they can. And so, yeah, you'll see a lot more things move around. And then there's the fact that one thing that the trade negotiations with China are supposed to solve is that the Chinese always steal intellectual property. Well, there's probably less chance of the Vietnamese doing that. So, you know, I mean, I think it's a healthy thing. Now, one thing that will frustrate people is we aren't seeing, you know, businesses move back to the U.S. And really that's a longer term thing. All these factories moving to Mexico and like moving offshore didn't happen overnight. Yet we can reverse that, but you need smarter policies than the White House has in place right now, and also it takes time. People have to be patient. So that's a 1-2 thing, you know. I mean, you need those two things to happen, and A, I don't think people are actually willing to give this time, and B, the policies in place are not the exact ones you want in order to make that happen. So, you know, it's really frustrating for many companies. It's frustrating for investors. It's certainly frustrating for American farmers. There's a lot of frustration on that. I don't expect it to end anytime soon. We keep hearing hints out of the White House that they're going to get together with China and make a great deal. Both sides have too much invested at this point to lose face on the matter. So we'll just have to see how things go. I used to think there was hope for a quick solution. I'm really losing hope for that now.
Sean, thank you so much for chatting with us.
Thanks. It's always a pleasure.
My guest has been Sean Brodrick, Senior Editor at WeissRatings.com and Marijuana Millionaire Portfolio. If you have any questions for Sean or any of our other guests, you can send them to info@HowStreet.com. Find us on Twitter @HowStreet, our YouTube channel, Talk Digital Network. I'm Jim Goddard. Thank you for listening.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.